Hello and welcome to First Impressions. This is a show where we normally look at a brand new album and evaluate it in a lot of different categories. But today we're doing something new. Today we're wrapping up the new year because today it's New Year's Day. So what we wanted to do was look back on the year that was, look back on the year 2024 and talk about what our best albums were, what our favorite songs were. So we kind of ranked it top 5 songs, top 5 albums. So Dash, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. So yeah, we've made it through 2024. Crazy. The years, I think at our age, the years go very fast. The years go fast, the days go slow, like Modest Mouse says. It's like, yeah, it's how it feels. But man, you just blink and it's like, oh wow, it's a new year. So yeah, glad we made it through. And there was some great music that came out this year. So we discovered a few. I know I think 2 of the albums are ones that we looked at this year that were new releases that we looked at on our first impression shows. And I think both of us have that on our list. I guess spoiler alerts, but when we listened to them, we said that right away. Like, okay, there's no way these aren't going to make our top 10 list or top 5 list of the year. And for me, like we'll talk about when we get there, my list changed up until literally the moment that we did this, and I had to change the intro to add the album back because I've been playing all these top 5 albums every day on my run, and it was down to like 8 that I needed to narrow to 5. So I guess if I had a top 10, we would have been just fine. But for me, oh my gosh, it was a back and forth and playing them I have all of them on vinyl now, so playing them, trying to figure out what's going to make that number 5 spot. Number 1 was kind of already solidified. It was pretty much solidified the moment I played it. So that wasn't the struggle. It was who gets to make that number 5 spot. So yeah, it was a battle. I kept messaging Das like, oh, I changed my mind again. So it's like, here we are.
Yeah, I changed quite a bit too. So I understand the pain and frustration you went through. It was difficult.
Yeah, but here we are recording, so I can't change my mind again. I am now here for my choices once and for all. So we're going to start it off with the top 5 songs of the year. So these are going to be our favorite songs. Now, I did it in a way where I didn't pick any songs from my top 5 albums, not because they weren't the best songs. And if I had done it more just looking at the songs overall, I think the ones from my top 5 albums would have also dominated my top 5 list. Yeah. But because I was back and forth so much on who and what I was going to pick, I picked songs from the albums that didn't make the cut to go into my top 5 songs, even though, the albums, each one could have filled the list. But I thought, all right, I want to show some love to these great albums that didn't quite make the top 5 by throwing them into my top 5 songs. So
makes sense.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's start off with our number 5 songs. So, what's your number 5 song for this list?
All right. You're gonna, for those paying attention and watching this, you're gonna see a lot of the theme for me was nostalgia for 2024, and what I mean by that is the songs or the artists that I have in there made a comeback in 2024, and really these songs just hit it. And for me, the Black Crowes, I have, if you're back at early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, the Black Crowes were big, and with, She Talks to Angels, still one of my favorite bands. But this song from their album that is in my top 5. So I'll hold off on a little bit on the name of the album for just a second. This song called Wanting and Waiting by the Black Crowes. It gives you that Twice as Hard vibe. If you remember from their very first album, Twice as Hard, you get their vibe back. You get their Happiness Bastards. There we go. It's from this album. You get the vibe of they're back from the 90s. Like and you're just, nostalgia hits you right in the face. And then not only that, I love the video that they did for it. I get some Joker vibe, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker vibes from it, even though I don't think it has anything to do with it. You just the way they're prancing around in there, and it's just awesome. The song is, you know, it's all about wanting and waiting. Is this girl? It's somebody he's, you know, he's got an affection for, and he's gonna wait, you know, wanting and waiting around, and he's gonna be there. And it just, again, it's all nostalgia for me on the song, wanting and waiting. It's classic Black Crowes. It's and again, just like we talked about with Robert Smith and The Cure, the vocals are there. I mean, if he wanted to go back and sing the high notes of "She Talks to Angels," he's going to do it, and I loved every minute of it. So, "Wanting and Waiting" is my number 5.
Nice. Yeah, and I actually didn't even know that they had a new album out. It's kind of like you got the Black Crowes back together and you got Oasis back together. The feuding brothers have managed to get back together and record albums. Now, we don't know if Oasis will make it so far as recording an album, because those two generally get in like knockdown brawls, and so did the brothers from the Black Crowes. I mean, they had genuine hate for each other, but they must have a genuine love for the music that they can make together, and of course the gigantic pile of cash that Oasis is about to get doing this tour that they're playing, you know, football stadiums. But you know, they're probably loaded, both bands, because they both recorded during the era where you sold albums, you made tons of cash. So they can't be wanting for money. There has to be that love of the music, and the fact that they're both back and Black Crowes making an album shows that, okay, despite their hatred for each other, the love of the music and what they know they're better together doing, you know, brought this back. So this is one, when you showed it, I hadn't had a chance to listen to it because I've just been constantly looping the 5 from my choices. But now when I'm done, I definitely have to go revisit this, because I love their early material. Yeah, talking about nostalgia and things like that. I love what they did before. I remember going to see them play when they were playing, you know, on their first couple of albums. And my list actually hits a lot of nostalgia as well when it comes down to the songs that I picked, for sure. And my first one is actually a new song from one of my favorite bands, Thursday. So the band Thursday, they're a post-hardcore band that I was just hugely into in college. I went to as many of their shows as I could. I actually met their lead singer I think it was last year, perhaps. No, it was last year at Free Comic Book Day. I went to one of their concerts afterwards. I got permission to use their lyrics on the back of one of my comics. So, you know, he's, you know, one of those people where you've watched him on stage a million times, but when you meet him, he's just as amazing as you would expect. So Jeff Rickley, you know, shout out to him for letting me use the lyrics on the back of my issue 8 of Immortal Era. But they, this year, released their first new song since 2011. So the song is Application for Release from the Dream, and they released it as a 7-inch. I immediately was on the website grabbing my copy of it, and it definitely doesn't disappoint. So it's their first new recording since 2011, but it has all the best of what you expect for Thursday. You have those kind of building, swelling rhythms that just move and move until we get that final scream and explosion that you wait so long to hear. I mean, since 2011, and they're doing the nostalgia tours, playing this album, playing that album, and those are great, but you always want to hear what more do you have to say? What's the new thing you have to say? And a lot of times that's the thing. What they have new to say is just a disappointment, and you don't feel that same connection that you once felt. And that I can, you know, there's plenty of bands, they release new albums and I just kind of shrug like, oh, let me go play the old one again. But this, you know, this is just a song, but from this song, it makes me want more. And I'm hoping that this song eventually leads to a brand new album. And their album that they released in 2011, surprisingly, I've never actually heard it. So that's one I'm thinking might be a great one for our show later on. Look at one of those albums that it got great reviews, it got good buzz, but it just kind of came out after they were so huge. So it's something that I definitely want to look at and, you know, put in one of our lists later on. All right. So nostalgia for both of us on our number 5 pick.
All
So what
right.
did you come up with for number 4?
All right. All right. Yellowstone fans can go crazy with this one. Or, actor, singer. One of the things I like about certain actors is they can sing. And Luke Grimes is no different. And, I'm country born, country bred, straight in Oklahoma. But, I love all types of music, but country still will be near and dear to my heart. And this, while he's not nostalgic or him per se, the music that he sings takes me back to the 70s and 80s nostalgic songs. And the song I'm talking about is Burn. Excuse me. Burn. And it's, again, I think another theme I might have is the feeling of loss and wanting somebody. That might be another theme that we see throughout my top songs. But Burn is just like one of those old 80s, 70s, 80s classic country songs that you might get from Merle Haggard or from George Strait or anybody like that. But this, it's lyrically, you would think that it's lyrically simplistic, but it's not. It's very deep lyrically as far as that goes, and you're just it's the burn that he feels for the woman that he loves, and that it's a hot love, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, let me just give you a snippet of Burn here. It's just let me pull up my notes. He's just warning signs everywhere. I know I'm playing with fire, girl, and I just don't care. I see the flame in your eyes. When I wind up hurt, no, the fault's all mine. So, I mean, this is a guy who is in love, and he sees fire and burn everywhere. And it's deep, and it's a catchy tune. It's not just one of those normal country songs. It is a very catchy. He's been on Jimmy Kimmel. He's been on Jimmy Fallon. He's played them all over the place and concerts everywhere. So Burn, if you're a Yellowstone fan and you like Luke Grimes, check it out. We're going to be doing another guy from Yellowstone later down in 2025. So if you like country, it's not your pop country, your as they call it here in Oklahoma, bro country. It's country. So that's why I liked it.
Awesome. And it's another one I haven't checked out. And once we're done, I will finally be solidified and happy with my list. I can start checking out your list, because these are albums for some that I haven't heard. For, like I said, I know 2 of them are going to be ones that we've covered in depth. Yeah. So it's, something that I need to look at the other ones, because I'm always looking for new music to hear. And that's kind of how this show even materialized, is both of us are always looking for new stuff. We're always looking for a new band, a new artist, just a new song that we can listen to and enjoy. You're looking for 1,000 albums for next year. Yeah. And I've sent you a couple. I have plenty more to keep you going, if any of the ones that you haven't heard. So yeah, that should be pretty fun. All right.
There's going to be some that pop up for sure.
Yeah. So my number 4 is by the band Idols. It's the song Roy from their new album Tank. And this is another one of those albums that got so close to making the cut. This one was on the list at one point, then it got removed for another one, then it got put back on. So this one nearly made my top 5 cut. And it's one of those songs where I don't even know if I think it's the best song on the album, but it's the one that's always in my head. I'm constantly kind of singing the chorus and just thinking about the rhythm of it, because it's just kind of a simple drum and bass rhythm that just builds until he gets to the chorus. And it's just him begging for a woman back. So Joe Talbot, the singer of Idols, he's, he'll go from a whisper to a growl on any given song. And this one is one of those ones where the growl comes back when he's just like, baby, 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 like, just take me back. And he's talking about all the things that he would do. And that's just kind of the slow build. I'll do this, I'll do that, whatever it takes to get her back. And, it's one of those things where you can feel that he probably doesn't get her back, but he is just begging with every fiber of his being to get this woman back. And it's the one that's it's just always stuck in my head. And I was
Yeah.
happy because they don't often play it live, but the one show that I did go to, they played it. So I was happy to hear that one. And that show was fun too, because I took my 14-year-old daughter to it because she got into this band from their song. They have a song called Never Fight a Man with a Perm, and she got hooked on that song. And
sounds like a good song to get hooked to.
It's a good song. It's a good album. I'll throw it on your list of 1,000 for next year. And it's kind of more punky, more hardcore, but just kind of fun in the lyrical content. So yeah, this one made it, and it was, I had a couple songs from the album, and I thought that might be technically a better song. Like the Dancer is a great song that they collaborate with LCD Sound System, but that one's not the one that's always stuck in my head. So I thought if it's my list, it's got to be the one that I can't get out of my head, that earworm that crawls around. So Roy made the list, but yeah, it's another good Idols album, worth a listen. I wouldn't put it on my top Idols album. A top Idols album would have made probably the top 3 without any difficulty. But this one, it was so close to cracking that top 5, but just couldn't quite hit the spot. But yeah, definitely worth listening to regardless. All right, so we're moving into our number 3 song.
Excellent. Well, this one's no stranger to you or I. This comes off one of the very first albums that we started the show with and a review with, and that's from The Cure and Alone. And my goodness, Alone, we talked about it back then. We'll talk about it now. This is one of those songs that not only sticks with you, it's not like a upbeat song, but it's one that it just holds you. You can still sing it. You can feel each and every word in this song.
Yeah.
Like it has each and every word means something, not only to Robert Smith, but to even the listener. I guarantee it. If you didn't listen to this album after we reviewed it, you really need to go and review it and listen to it, because it's such a fantastic album. And but Alone, again, and the birds falling out of the skies and the words falling out of our minds, and here is to love, to all the love falling out of our lives, hopes and dreams are gone, the end of every song. I mean, again, for me, songs have to hit deep, just like you said. If it's one you sing all the time, or if it's one that it's in your head all the time. And this one is one of the best. And here you go. Yeah. The Cure. It starts off the album, but man, it's just one that I can't say no more because we already talked about it, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a repeat song. It's a repeat song.
Yeah. And it's like we had talked about, it just takes its time to build. It doesn't just say, okay, here you go, this is going to be a quick little 3 minutes. Like, no, you're going to wait 3 minutes before Robert Smith even sings. And it's such an incredible opener. I think when I wrote my notes about what we're going to talk about today with the album, I just said it's just the most perfect opening and closing songs that you could possibly put on an album. It just kind of, they bookmark each other in a way that's just perfection. So yeah, that Alone is such a good song. I mean, really, it's an album of good songs. I don't think there's a skipper on the whole batch. And that's saying something, because, I talk about it. I give any new album about 3 songs. And if it can't lure me in within 3 songs, then I just don't have the time. And this one, I mean, I was within 30 seconds. I'm like, ooh, this is something right here. This one's going to be an album that just goes on infinite repeat. And not just this year. Well, I'll think about it. It's, with a lot of late album releases, if I reach for that, if I'm going to my Cure section in my collection, am I going to reach for this one or one of the older ones? And I think this one will be one of my top ones that I reach for, above even some of their great 80s content.
And the minute you just lay the needle down, the song, it has you. I mean, like you said, it's not even 30 seconds. It's probably 5 seconds into the song. That this song is going to be one you listen to over and over again because
Oh, yeah.
it's just opens, bing, and you're just like, all right, I'm here. I
I'm
got you,
hooked.
Robert.
You got
I'm
me.
hooked.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I'm 100% with you on that one. So that one honestly would have easily made the top 5 if I didn't kind of change the rules to make it where I wanted to highlight the ones that didn't quite make the cut. But this one and In Song would have both made that cut because they're both just. I mean, honestly, I could have had my top 5 be all songs from this album, and it wouldn't have been wrong. The list would have still been true and accurate. So
that's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, every song in my top 5 could have literally come from this album, and I would not have been upset.
Mm-hmm. So for my number 3, kind of going back to that nostalgia as well, it's a new song by Sunny Day Real Estate. So Sunny Day Real Estate is one of my favorite bands of all time. They put out their first album it was either late 90s or early 2000s, and that was Diary, and I was just hooked. I mean, they didn't play California for their first run through when they were a band before they broke up, and the first time they announced a date in California, it was in San Francisco, and I was like, I don't care if it's a 6-hour drive, I'm going to make sure that I'm at this show. So this is a band that I was completely obsessed with and still love their material. I saw them twice this year. They're one of those bands, whenever they play, I make sure I'm there. And they did a re-recording of their album Diary. And that's not something I'm really into. I want to let the original album speak for itself. But on this new re-recording, they slipped in a brand new song. And that song is Novum Vitus. And that was, a welcome surprise, and it's actually a really incredibly good song, which kind of came out of nowhere. It just, here, we're going to throw this on as kind of an extra, and it's a 7-minute kind of sweeping epic that feels like the era from their album, How It Feels to Be Something On. And that, a lot of people love the first 2 albums that are more punky. This one, definitely more melodic, and Novum Vitus would fit right in on that album. So yeah, I loved it when I heard this song. When they played it live, it was just as good live as it is on the album. And it was just something that really hooked me in. And another thing, like the Thursday one, something that I'm truly hoping that they bring back to play on, a full album with. Here, this could be a great opener for a full new album. Hopefully it's not just a one-off and they recorded it and that's it, because they're another band that breaks up all the time because I don't think they like each other much, but they know that they're best when they're making music, and they've all done solo things. But my hope is that we see more from Sunny Day Real Estate and not just a little one-off, because this song definitely leaves you hungry for more. So that's my number 3.
Very good. Yeah.
All right. So what's your number 2 pick? Yeah, it's definitely worth a listen.
Yeah. My number 2, again, you can't have country without George Strait. Plain and simple. And on this song, you get Chris Stapleton to join along with him, coming from a really great album. But this is what my wife would think is typical country. The twang, but it's about honky tonks, and you can never go wrong with a song about honky tonks, and especially making the Honky Tonk Hall of Fame. And that's the name of the song, Honky Tonk Hall of Fame. Cowboys and Dreamers. Oh man, if you're a country fan, or just a straight, if you like George Strait, if you just like casual country, this is the album for you. But Honky Tonk Hall of Fame, this is a dancing song. If you're a two-stepper, get out there, dance to this song. It's an earworm. It gets in there, and it just it's all about breaking up with a woman, and he's going to make, because he spends all his times at the honky tonks. He's going to make the Hall of Fame because he's there all the time, and just fun song, very fast, very upbeat, but him and Chris Stapleton sound like Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard together doing a duet, and that's what brings me back to that nostalgia, and just, it's a perfect country and western song. And it just, again, if you're a dancer, you like country music, this is the one. Some of the, it's just like, well, if I go down in history, I owe it all to this misery from all the lies that you told me and this poor old heart you broke. I mean, it just starts off like every country and Western song does, but it's perfect. It's the perfect honky tonk song. And it, in the lines of Toby Keith, I love this bar, and Honky Tonk, the Honky Tonk Bar Association by Garth Brooks. All of these songs bring up the honky tonks, and that's why it was a good song. It was probably the best George Strait song of the year, and one that I've heard in quite some time of George Strait.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's, I think when you're talking about the different types of country, it would be that bro country that doesn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah.
Or that super, like, it's basically like pop country. It's a pop song with a little twang, and that doesn't really grab me. But yeah, when you're talking about kind of that old school, because I remember, listening to that kind of stuff when I was younger. I think I'm like Hank Williams Jr., that kind of era. That's what I would listen to. Old Johnny Cash, that's the stuff. And then the poppy stuff, like I don't listen to regular pop music. I don't need to listen to country pop music. Yeah. So it would be the kind of thing that would throw me off. But yeah, this one definitely has my interest. It's one that all these albums that are on your list, I'm definitely going to add to my Spotify. And it's like, all right, there we go. Tomorrow's run. Check out some new stuff. See how it, see how it grabs me.
That's exactly why these two albums are, because of the way that they fit into the old country. I probably haven't had a real good country album on my top 5 or 10 in years. We're talking years. So yeah, it was fine. Yeah. It was nice to see some country make it back in there.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So my number 2 is this. This is the album that was honestly my flip-flop album. It's been on the list and removed from the list. And it's the song Sometimes by the band Mannequin Pussy. This album was so close to getting the list. And it's just got this kind of great grungy pop sound that you could have put on any album in the 90s from like Veruca Salt or The Breeders or something like that. And it would have felt right at home. And this album, I mean, I can't say enough about the album. Like I said, it didn't quite make the cut, but it is a spectacular album. It's got pop, it's got punk, it's got power ballads. It's about, it's longing, lusting, just that deep love and that deep loss. You feel that all. And the song Sometimes is more of a celebration. It's a celebration of love and happiness. And the album, like I said, it kind of goes through the whole spectrum. But she's, just saying that sometimes we leave our lonesome ways behind and, find this happiness. So she's wanting to give her love to somebody, and just it has that happiness, and the upbeat feel of the song is just you just bob your head, like you say. You just want to kind of bob your head, and if you heard this song, it would grab you right there. You'd kind of be bobbing your head along to it because you can't help but do it when this song kicks in. And then, like I said, if you're a fan of the 90s stuff, which is that's kind of where I was in high school when all that was coming out, so it's something I'll always love, that era of music. It would be right at home in there, and just a great album. So, like I said, this close to making the cut, but this song was going to be on regardless, because even when I had taken this album off, I said, I just can't take that song off. And it ended up, when you get your Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, this one ended up being the number 1 song that I played. So it was
very nice.
my most played song of 2024. And it would have made my number 1, but when we get to the number 1, it's, there's a whole explanation and backstory as to why it's number 1. So yeah, I guess without any further delay, let's hear, what's your number 1 song?
Listen, again, this is no stranger to you and I think it's The Cure. It's I Can Never Say Goodbye. This is a deep, heartfelt anthem to Robert Smith's brother. And we've all lost somebody we love and we cherish, and we all can feel, and that's this song exactly to a T. You can feel again every emotion that Robert Smith is feeling in this, and something wicked this way comes from out of the cruel treacherous night. Something wicked this way comes to steal away my brother's life. I mean, it's a powerful, powerful song. I was in discussion with somebody the other day, the difference between those Scorpions Winds of Change and why Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm like, Bohemian, we can get into all those. Winds of Change is a powerful anthem for the song that for the lyrics that it's dictating about and the Winds of Change that's coming. Bohemian Rhapsody, it's a powerful song and it's the way it goes up and down, changes all of its, it goes through all different forms of singing. And so, but this is one of those that you could put in there into the category of powerful anthems. And, ever since this album came out and you and I listened to it, I mean, if this would have been earlier in January of 2023 or 2024, my Wrapped would probably have this as the number one song.
Yeah, I would say so. It's just, I don't know, honestly, because when I play this one, I like to sit down and listen to it on vinyl. And I spent more to buy the half speed pressing that's supposed to be like the top optimal sound quality. And it's just one of those things where I like to sit down and just let the whole album play out. And I think honestly, the album itself would have made my Wrapped, because there's times, all right, when you're in the car, there's no way you're going to spin vinyl when you're driving to the grocery store. And yet I'll still be playing this album. And it's one that like some of the ones that we have talked about on our show, I was saying some of my family members will listen to and enjoy. Some of them will walk out of the room. But this one, everyone was still listening. Everyone was staying in there. And just, it's kind of like, wow, you finish it and you just want to pull that needle right back and start it all the way over, because it's just that good. You finish it, and once is not enough and twice is not enough. And I guess that's the sign of any great album, is it just becomes part of your DNA. You want it, and you can listen to it anytime, any place, and you'll find something new. You'll discover a nuance that you didn't get the first time. And it's just, you can still get chills even on the 100th listen. That's the sign of one of those all-timer albums. And this one, right on that list. I mean, I would put it right below Disintegration on my Cure list of best albums. And that's saying something, because they have an amazing catalog. I mean, there's a few clunkers in there, but when you've been recording as long as they have, you're entitled to a clunker or two. But here we are, 16 years after their last album. Robert Smith is in his 60s, and here he puts out a masterpiece, out of nowhere. So, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but we've already talked about this album, and I think we could do a whole next show talking about what we've got on actual second and third listens beyond the first. And it's one that you just find more and more every time you play it. So yes, that is definitely an incredible song, an incredible album. Like I said, my top 5 could have been all songs from this, and it would have been right. It would not have been wrong. But like I said, I wanted to share love with those poor albums that missed the cut by this much. It's like the flip-flops were bad. So my number one, it is not from the song. It's from the happiness that it brought me. And that song is OMG by Candelita, a.k.a. infielder of the New York Mets, Jose Iglesias. So when the season started, he didn't have a contract. He wasn't playing for any team. So he went out and he recorded this Spanish language song. And the song is very enjoyable. It's kind of the upbeat, happy Spanish song. And, I've actually looked at the translation. The lyrics are just kind of very positive and happy. And it's one that you can't help but bob your head to. My wife, she teaches step aerobics at the gym. And when she heard this song, she's like, oh yeah, I want to get that song and use it for one of my step classes. It would be perfect for a step class. But that's not the reason it made my number one. When he released this song, the Mets were kind of floundering. They started this season god awful. It looked like, okay, they're going to be vying for that number one draft pick, way under 500. They had overspent on some bloated 40-year-old pitchers, and they gave them nothing, so they traded them away. So this year was always touted as the rebuild year. And then this team just kind of found a little magic later in the season, And when this song got released, I believe they were 1 or 2 games under 500. And that was something because they had to battle to get to that. They were at one point just buried like 15 games under 500.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then this song came out, and the wife's owner had a shirt with what we see on this sign, and she wore it and put it on her Twitter, and or the owner's wife, sorry.
Yeah.
She wore this shirt. So then someone 3D printed this sign, and now every time the Mets hit a home run, they would hold up this sign, and it became kind of the rallying cry for the team. And it was something the whole team loved, and everyone wanted to get there and do that shot with the sign. And now they actually brought the sign into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Nice.
So it's been enshrined there, but it just, this song and just what came from this song brought me so much happiness, because I'm someone who listens to, I don't watch every baseball game because I like to listen to the games when I'm on my run. And I listened to every game and got to enjoy their amazing playoff run that, shouldn't have even happened. It was all gravy. And, I got to watch, them beat the Phillies. I got to watch them beat the Brewers. Let's not speak of the Dodgers series. I don't want to even remember that one. But it was one of those things where it was such a fun season and such an unexpected season. And this song was kind of the soundtrack to what was
anthem.
Such a fun ride for me and for every Mets fan. So it makes my number one, not because it's my favorite song. It wouldn't have made the top 10 of my favorite songs of the year, but what it represents, that makes my number one. Because just an enjoyable season of baseball or football, whatever sport you love. When your team does well, it just brings infinite happiness into your life. If you're a diehard sports fan, it can bring the sorrow too. But this year, Dodgers series aside, this was a great ride. And this song kind of it's the background of every happy moment the Mets had this year, once they stopped being terrible. And there's also Grimace, but there's no Grimace song. Yeah. Cause the Mets had this sign and Grimace as kind of these weird mascots to a unexpected and fun season.
That's funny. Yeah, that's the best thing about music. There's no rules. There's no rules as to why it has to be your number one song. There's no rules as to why it could be the best song in the world, and it could be last on your list. There's no rules, and that's what I love about music.
Mm-hmm.
And it taking us, that means something to you. That's why I like that. That's why I like that. That's your number one song, because it does mean something to you, and I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, it made the number one. And at first, actually, that one kind of like my number one album. There was never any doubt, because it's what it brought and what it means to any Mets fan who was out there watching this season. And I'm in LA. I'm in the LA area, so I was way outnumbered, and no one wanted to hear my happiness. They wanted to see me suffer, and they eventually got their wish. So
that's awesome.
All right, so now we're going to start digging into our top 5 albums, and it sounds like we're going to see some of the songs, some of the full album descriptions from what you were talking about. So let's just start with number 5. What's your number 5 best album of the year?
And that's the Black Crowes, the Happiness Bastards. Again, everything made it because of nostalgia, and even the critics love this one. It's sitting anywhere from 7 out of 10 to 4.5, 5 stars on some, depending on where you look at. It was critically accepted. They're back, just like you talked about. The brothers were fighting, but they found a way to come back together and make music that they used to make.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes this album so good. It's just so good. I mean, and as far as the year-end list, it's all out of the 75 best albums of 2024. It ranked 43 on Mojo, if you want to go by that. If you want to, but to me, it ranks in top 5. So, and again, I have probably more connection than some of the the people listening nowadays do.
Yeah.
But there's awesome songs on it. I love Cross Your Fingers. I love Wanting and Waiting, just like we talked about. There's a great song with a country singer. I love collaborations. Mm-hmm. I think when you can, you get those cross genre collaborations. I think they can make beautiful music together. Wilted Rose featuring country singer Lainey Wilson, fantastic song. Bleed It Dry, Follow the Moon, Kindred Friend, all great songs to me. You know, somebody might listen and every one of those they might, that's a horrible song. They're good to me. I just think it brings you back to the roots of who the Black Crowes were, you know, and that's what I think we're kind of hoping, like we talked about with Oasis. I think we're kind of hoping to get back to the roots of Oasis and see if they can coexist and make the same kind of music that they love. And that's what I got with Black Crowes. And they might have aged, but their voices are, you know, just so good. It hasn't, they didn't miss a beat. I don't feel like they missed a beat at all.
Yeah, it's incredible to think, because there was a point in time where, much like the Oasis brothers, they didn't speak to each other. That's the Robinson brothers. We have the Gallagher brothers that didn't speak. I mean, and the Gallagher brothers were just ripping on each other on social media. It's one of those things where I truly never thought that they would get back together, because they're loaded with money. They don't need that. But can they even finish a tour is my question. I mean, they got tons of money on the tables. I think they have to just suck it up, even if they want to punch each other backstage after every show. Do your thing. But you just sold out the Rose Bowl for 2 nights. And, you know, that was at $300 a ticket. Suck it up and get through this show. So I can't imagine them, you know, dismantling in the middle of a tour like that. I'm sure there were stipulations in the contract, like, you better finish this tour or else you're going to have to pay us X amount of cash. So I think they'll do it, but will they realize, wait, we're better when we're together. Let's put out an album, and hopefully so. I mean, I'm not rich enough to be going to the Oasis reunion, but it's something that hopefully it's not just a one-off thing, and they begin to, you know, record and give us something good, because Oasis definitely spiraled into some garbage albums in their later career stuff. So we're due for a good return to form from them. And it sounds like Black Crowes gave us their good return to form. So I'm happy that happened. So my number 5, my constantly shifting and changing number 5, where I finally settled in, is Hello Mary's Amita Ox. Now, Hello Mary is a 3-piece band, 3-piece all-female band from New York. And I actually discovered them when I was in New York. We went to one of these little kind of indie record stores, and that's what they happened to be playing. And that was with their first album. So they released their second one early this year. And it's one that's I played a lot this year, but I just never quite knew where I was on it. And then I finally played it again, and I realized, okay, it's lyrically, it's not going to grab you in a lot of the songs, but it's because they have this kind of dreamlike, you know, ethereal thing with the, you know, them blending their vocals together, and they're all like 21 and 22 years old. So they're really young. They're getting comparisons with, you know, OK Computer era and Radiohead, and you can feel it in there. And I thought it's just kind of like the soundtrack of walking through a haunted house. You know, this is the kind of music that would be kind of swelling around you as you're walking through this. And just the vibe and the feel of the album sucks you in such a way. You can't help but, you know, you start bobbing your head to it, and then you just realize that everything they're doing is amazing, but it took me a while to fully grasp what this album was going for. And it's just creating this vibe, this dream pop vibe that is so great. And it's, you know, I've seen the band play a few times live. I'll definitely be seeing them next time when they come around to perform songs from this album. But yeah, they're so talented, and at, you know, 21 and 22 years old, you know, they have only up to go. So I'm curious to see where they take this, you know, the kind of shoegazy dream pop vibe, and are they going to go deeper with it, or are they going to take it in a whole new direction? Because they have moments where they hit a little harder rock pieces and things like that. So I'm really curious to see where they go, but loving everything that they've done so far. And they took that constantly shifting number 5 spot and solidified it this morning when I was playing each album, a few songs from it again, and I'm like, yeah, damn it, it's these, they win. So Hello Mary, number 5, and not without much debate and difficulty. So yes, a great album, worth checking out. Both of their albums are very solid, so I would recommend them both. And yeah, they're, like I said, they're so young. They have, years ahead of them to keep making great music. So I look forward to see what they have coming next. All right, so what's your number 4?
This one is one that you introduced me to. I would have never even have known about this artist had you not introduced it. And it's Evergreen by Soccer Mommy. I thought it was, again, one of the best things about listening to music is getting introduced to new music. And that's why I like that we're doing this show, First Impressions, is because there's things that I probably would have never known existed. And so this album, it's got a little bit of everything. Some people, love to compare her. I wouldn't necessarily say she's Taylor Swift, but she makes, she can write lyrics just as good as Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. She has that lyrical prowess. I mean, this is her 4th album. All of the albums are really good. I mean, I love all the albums. Her previous album, that's kind of her haunted house album where it's almost gothy feeling, and it's a great album. But yeah, lyrically, she's creating really strong content, but without the hysteria and selling out stadiums that Taylor Swift gets. So I'm sure she'd be happy to get up there. But that's one of those ones you hope, if Taylor Swift grabs an opener, grab someone like Soccer Mommy, and I think she could win over that Taylor Swift crowd. So that could be a big moment for her, because she's opened for, I saw her opening for Vampire Weekend, so it seems like she's opening more in that indie scene with bands that are more aligned like that. And I know that the crowd at the Vampire Weekend show definitely was feeling it, but what she needs is something like, all right, throw her on an opening slot for Taylor Swift, and now she becomes gigantic and gets the credit she needs. But overall, just such a great album.
And I like that, we talked about it, and this is a love letter to her mother, or a love album to her mother. And again, Lost M, but you get some great upbeat Driver. I love Driver. I thought that was one of the best songs. Thinking of You, Dreaming and Falling. We have, we talked about this. There's a song on there that's a love song to an NPC on a video game. That's how you know that you're into it with your music, and you could write a song. That would be like me going and writing a song about somebody on Supernatural, writing a song about a background character on the TV show Supernatural. That I love that. That's what makes great songwriters, and that's what makes great entertainers and artists. And I love that. And that, again, the music, the rhythm, everything was just, you kind of would slow down, and then you'd be picked back up. You're on a roller coaster of emotions with this album, but it was well worth being on that roller coaster. For that reason, it comes in at number 4.
Awesome. So now the rest of my list, it was pretty much solidified from the moment I started. It was just that number 5 spot. So my number 4 is Spiral in a Straight Line from the post-hardcore band Touche Amore. So they are a California-based band. They're post-hardcore, and in their earlier albums, it was very, just yelly and almost, like punk rock. This still has those elements, but they found ways to get more melodic with their music. So Jeremy Bolm is the singer, and I wonder how he has a voice left, because he's going at full volume for, 30 minutes of this album. If you go see them play in a concert, he's going at full volume for that full hour. And you just wonder how he can even talk after a show, let alone record another album with just, these hardcore punches to the throat with all of this music. But he also takes it down at points. the closer is Goodbye for Now, and it has Julian Baker from the band Boy Genius, and that's this really great group that has Phoebe Bridgers also in there, and he brings her in for the final song, which is kind of a love song where they sing together, and it's 31 minutes, but it's just a wild ride for those full 31 minutes. You got your melodic punk, you have your more ballady stuff, and just another great album from a band that when they put out a release, I don't think about it. I just hit that pre-order button and get it right from the band's website, because I can trust that what they've done in the past, I know they're going to keep bringing great stuff, and they haven't let me down yet. So this one, definitely worth checking out. And yeah, let's hear, what is your number 3?
My number 3, though the one of its songs was number 2, the album that comes in at number 3 is George Strait, Cowboys and Dreamers. Again, it did so well, and it makes all of the Billboard charts, topping out at number 14, I think, or debuted at number 14 on one, and number 6 on the Billboard Top Country. Of course, George Strait's always going to debut very high, no matter what album that he does. I just thought it was really good. It's lots of, again, it's a lot of feels like to me the old nostalgic country. There's no bro, there's no pop. I love Three Drinks Behind. We talked about the Honky Tonk Hall of Fame, The Little Things, the book, just all songs that mean, if you're a George Strait fan, you'll know what they mean. They're so enriched. They're country. They are country. And that's what that's the one thing that you can say that's constant about George, is he's never changed his style. He's not the smoking lights guy. He's not the running around on stage, and still can win. He could stand there in the middle of the stage, sing a song at the microphone, and still win Entertainer of the Year. That's what you love, because he can still sing, and he can still put on a show, and to be going since the 70s.
Yeah.
It's an amazing career for George Strait, and he's never changed. And I love that about him. And this is a great song. This ends with The Journey of Your Life. I highly recommend anybody going and listen to that song. Very, very, very short album for the most part, 45 minutes roughly ish. But it opens great, ends great. If this was one that we had done together, this was one of those ones that would be no skips. It's on repeat all the time. If this was one of our first impressions. It's just George. It's just George, and it's lyrically, it's so good. George Strait very rarely writes any of his own, so he always gives up and coming songwriters a shot, and you get to see the talent of those songwriters. But yeah, it's just one of those albums. There's a reason he makes my country, or my Christmas top 5 albums. There's a reason he makes my country. There's a reason he makes my top albums almost all the time. I love George Strait, and it just wouldn't be, I feel like it just wouldn't be a top 5 without him. But this is an album that can take you back nostalgic wise, and he's never changed, and I love it.
Yeah. 72 and still out there doing his thing. I mean, we have a couple of our artists that we're talking about have been out there since the 70s, making great music, and there's a reason that people will flock to new releases from singers like him, is they know it's dependable. They know he's not gonna, this isn't gonna be his EDM techno try. He's not gonna keep trying new things. I think of bands like the Bee Gees that constantly change their style because they couldn't. They wanted to be hip and new, and it's kind of like, just be you. Yeah, and they if you listen to early Bee Gees, it's sounds like 60s Beatles stuff, and then it gets disco, and then they even have a grungy sounding album. It's like, no, you're just directionless. And someone like George Strait, he knows who he is. Someone like Robert Smith, he knows who he is. He knows what he's going to release. You haven't heard all these different varieties. Maybe he'll play a song with someone who's a little different, but George Strait's not going to start his rap album. It's nothing wrong with that. And you can see that rap and country have kind of surprisingly crossed over in a way actually works. I mean, it's surprisingly good, but George Strait knows his lane and he's staying there. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's why when a new album comes out, people know it's going to be worth it. It's going to be dependable. We're going to get what we want. Another George Strait album with some great songs and some still good singing. So it's incredible that someone at 72 can still belt it out and still get on stage and belt it out. So yeah, it's, just shows that you never have to fully retire. Just you keep doing your thing and you will be living the happy life. So yeah, that is an album I definitely will be checking out. I haven't heard it yet, but I will be on that one once I'm done with this show. So my number 3 goes back to your number 4, and that's Evergreen from Soccer Mommy. I love this album. I think of it almost like a concept album of loss and eventually kind of learning to, it's not get over it, but learning to live with the loss in a way of knowing that acceptance is there. Like, I can't get her back. And she thinks about the things she should have said, the things she should have done. And now all of that is too late. But in the end, the name of the album, Evergreen, her mom's memory lives evergreen in her mind. And she's come to that acceptance of, yes, I'm not going to get her back. She's someone that is out of my life, but all of those memories are something that are going to live and be cherished. And you have The Cure doing the same thing when he's talking about the loss of his brother, but he's kind of living that loss in real time. And we don't see that loss in real time. There is an album on one of her previous albums where it's more the real time when she finds out her mom has cancer. And then this album is the aftermath of that, when her mom didn't survive the cancer that she was the cancer that she got. And that you get her kind of real time processing of her feelings. And I think the album does a beautiful job of kind of bookending. The opening and closing songs definitely feel like bookends to the album. So you have Lost that opens it and Evergreen that closes it. And Lost is kind of beginning the feeling of those emotions, and Evergreen is coming to the final realization that I have to accept this even if it's painful. And they feel very alike with just kind of the quiet acoustic, but the feelings lyrically show that she's come to that point where she knows there's no getting her back, but I'm going to let her memory live evergreen in my mind. And it's just such a brilliant way to open and close. And I always talk about how I love when an album opens and closes in a strong way, because so many albums kind of start with all the big numbers in the beginning and kind of lose their focus by the end. And you can feel that A-side, B-side contrast, where the A-side is just spectacular and the B-side loses you little more. And this one doesn't do that. By the end of the B-side, you're just like, oh man, you just took me on a ride. You took me on a journey of your emotions. And anyone who's in that same place can, grow and learn from what she's singing about, because like we said in our show, she's the artist. She can say it way better than us. And, that's why it's a beautiful thing, because when a great artist releases an album like this, it's something that can resonate with people for an eternity. You can always look to this album because loss is always going to be there. It's an inevitable part of life, but she can help you process it through her own pain and through her own emotions. So a beautiful album, and made both our lists. So yeah, what can you say?
Yeah, that's great. All right.
So what was your number 2 on this one?
Luke, again, Yellowstone fans, be proud, stand proud. Luke Grimes, self-titled album. Luke Grimes, again, it just brings you back to nostalgia and what me growing up in the 70s, 80s, and what country music was. Just a great album. All the songs, like I said, Burn, Playing on the Tracks is a great country song. Hold On, The Ghost of Who We Were, God and a Girl. It's just great songs. I did this. This was one of the first reviews I did on my shorts for an album that you and I hadn't listened to. Mm-hmm. And it moved me. It moved me as far as an album goes, especially country. He's got a great voice, and when you hear him sing, you're like, no, that's not how he should sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he just brings the music, and he brings you back to the 70s and 80s vibes of country music, of what I love to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, again, like I said at the beginning, I like when you have crossovers and you have actors who sing. Some people get mad about that. I like when you can dual thing and sing and act, and I love when you can do that. And Luke's no different. I just think this is a fantastic album. If you've never listened to the old country, start with this album. It'll give you vibes, and then just go hit the old country, and you'll see what I mean, because you'll enjoy every song. Man, I was just the comments I was getting alone on this review. Everybody's in agreements that it's just a beautiful country album. And so, if you're not, you don't have to be a huge country fan to like this either. I guarantee you, people that watch Yellowstone are not big country music fans. They just love they'd probably pick this up and just love the album.
Mm-hmm.
So go give it a check out. It's good. It's what country music needs to be, should be, and should always be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I haven't heard it, but yeah, the kind of eliminating the bro country, I'm with you on that. But
yeah,
I think it'll always exist, because like anything, that's going to sell a lot of albums, and they'll keep making it. But as long as people are out there kind of producing the real thing, it's still going to be there. So that you've picked two that are kind of fitting into that old school and giving you those vibes that you want as a country fan. That's great. And this, it's two albums I need to go and listen to once we get done with the show, and everyone else should too. Go on, head over to your Spotify and throw these together. We're going to be putting together the year-end playlist. I'll be putting that in the comments of this show. So when you see it, you'll be able to go and click a link that'll take you to a Spotify playlist with songs from all of these albums and from the shows that we've done before. So that will be up there and live, and definitely check it out, because we've been talking about albums for the last few months, and we've had favorite songs. So all of those are going to be in there. So head over, check out that Spotify playlist. The link to that is going to be in the description, and you can hear what he's talking about, and I can too, since this album is new to me. I can play that playlist and hear what's good about it. So my number 2 was a surprising pick for me, because this album, Jack White's No Name, which you wouldn't know by the cover, just looks like blue splatter. But honestly, the last few Jack White albums have left me pretty cold. I mean, he's trying to rap, and no one wants to hear Jack White rapping. I mean, maybe you do, and if you do, more power to you. If that's your thing, then I apologize for offending you. And you're like, Jack White is a great rapper, but no, he was just kind of spiraling into a messy territory where I wasn't really enjoying it. I would still go see his shows, because he's going to play White Stripe songs, he's going to play Raconteur songs, and you just look for the moments like, okay, great, it's P break moment. He's playing one of the songs from the new album, but this new album, from the moment the opening riff was playing, I knew that this was going to be a little bit different. So it's Old Scratch Blues opens the album, and the opening riff is just like, oh, damn, he's back. He means this again. It's not super polished. It's, what you love from Jack White, and that is that kind of raw garage rock blues. And from the moment the album opens to the moment it ends with the Terminal Arch Enemy ending, it's another one. It's just bookended with 2 spectacular songs with great songs in between. He's not going for, top 40 pop songs like he was trying to do before. You could hear, I could hear his last few albums, like, how can I get this on the radio? What can I do? And they just weren't working. And I know people who are huge Jack White fans that are going to tell me, no, those albums were also great. But to me, they they didn't make it through my 3-song rule. I played 3 songs and I was like, no thanks. But this one, from song 1, I was just in. I was 100%. And the album builds. It does have its popular moments. That's how I'm feeling right now. It gets played on radio, and you can see why. But my favorite songs are more the ones that we don't hear on the radio, that are just those raw garage energy. And that's what made me love the White Stripes in the first place, was just that garage rock blues. But now, I mean, no offense to Meg White, but the drummer he's using on this album is such a great drummer that I'm a percussion guy, and I really want great percussion on an album, and this one is loaded with it. So yeah, it's a great return to form, and it actually got really good reviews, where his previous albums were not getting great reviews.
Yeah, he had
this one, it got right back onto the top list.
Yeah, he wasn't getting a lot of great reviews on anything since the White Stripes, for the most. At least that's what you could, from what I saw. There was some decent ones here and there, but nothing like the White Stripes as far as his music goes. So I'm ready to check this one out.
Yeah, and it's Daru Jones is the drummer. I had to look it up because the drum work is just exceptional. And like I said, no offense to Meg White. Meg White held a beat while Jack White did his thing. This drummer goes toe-to-toe with him and keeps right up. So well worth checking out. If you were, let down like I was by some of his previous albums, this one is, top-notch return to form. I'd say I like it better than even the last White Stripes album, Icky Thump. It's that good. I mean, it's surprisingly, I would have never thought after, one mediocre release after the next that I'd be loving another Jack White album, but he came back and released another amazing album. So that takes us to our shared pick. We can kind of talk about it together. And that is our number 1. So I'm just going to pull up the image because I know that both of us are in the same place. So we don't have to alternate. We can just kind of talk about our number 1 album, Songs of a Lost World by The Cure. So yeah, what more can we say about this? We talked about it for 45 minutes. Like I said, we could talk about it for 45 minutes more, but something that really that I love about this album, and I love poppy Cure songs, Friday I'm in Love and Love Cats. They're fine, but I always like those epic Cure moments. That's why I love Disintegration so much, is it has songs like Same Deep Water as You. It takes its time. It waits to get you there. It builds and it builds. And most of these songs, they wait 2-3 minutes before we even hear Robert Smith's voice. Yeah. And it's worth the wait. I mean, these songs, you're fully immersed in them before he starts singing. You are just the vibes, the tone, the feel, everything just kind of pulls you into this world. And it's one that's just infinite repeat. It is that good of an album. It's, number 1 on my list. I know Spin magazine put it as their number 1. And honestly, anyone who puts it there, I can see why they would. And if you don't, I mean, maybe there's an album we didn't hear. So I'm not going to begrudge any of the top 10 lists that don't have it on there. But man, this one was just number 1 with a bullet, because the moment I heard it, I knew it was absolutely going to be my top album of the year. I was like, I doubt anyone's going to put something else out between now and then that's going to surpass this.
Knock it down. 1. Yeah. I mean, we said this from the moment we listened to it to the day that we started doing this show. Good artists, good singers, good entertainers make you feel the music. That's something that The Cure has always done since the dawn of The Cure. This album is no different. This album is probably just hands above some of the, I like all the old Cure, don't get me wrong. But this is old Cure. This is old Cure.
It is.
And this would fit in with late 80s, early 90s Cure.
It would. And I think that's the thing that's hard, is when you're a band of his stature, if you try to just release one that'll fit in with the old, it can sound like a retread and it can fall very flat. So that's a risk you take, is you want to recreate that magic of the older days, but it can fall flat. And this one doesn't do that. And it also just, I mean, I think when we looked at Metacritic, it's not just us. I mean, it's ranked high on Metacritic. It's got top reviews from almost every publication, and even Pitchfork, which Pitchfork can be pretty nasty, especially when it's these kind of retread albums, and even they gave it a really strong review. So it's something amazing that, now, of course, he's going to release another album, who hopefully not 16 years from now, because he's already 65, and that's that's a long stretch. But can he outdo himself again? It makes you wonder, because this album took 16 years to make, but as he's aged, a lot of these themes that have always been in Cure songs, like, the songs that we're talking about, death and dying and aging, when he was writing them at 20 and 30, you're like, all right, man, you'll be fine. You got plenty of years. But when you're writing them at 65 and you're staring at the end and you're looking at things like, why aren't things like I remember? And I just think about that, like, man, that is the truth, because you drive through a town and you're like, that used to be a this and that used to be a that. And where are these places that I loved? Where are these places that I know? And you watch your world changing, and it's just, it hits hard. And the older you get, the harder it hits. And for Robert Smith, it's hitting hard now, because here he is on the second half of his life, not, in your early 20s. He can still sing those songs about death and dying, and they're still great songs, and they still hold up. But, now it looks and feels a lot different. But the one thing that doesn't feel different is his voice. I mean, it's as crisp as it ever was. You hear him, you play an old Cure album, you play this one, and he sounds just as good as he ever has.
This is an album on repeat. Like I said, if this had come out in January 2024, I guarantee you my Spotify would have this as my number one album. And probably every song would be in the my top songs, because that's how good that album is.
Mm-hmm.
And
it could have easily been my top 5, and it would have every song would have been just fine and well warranted. So it's that good. Take our word for it. I was talking with my uncle this weekend, and he listened to our broadcast, and he's like, is it really that good? I'm like, you have to play it. You have to listen to this, because it really is that good. I mean, and I'm coming in as a really big Cure fan, but I think if you even liked the Cure a little bit, this album is going to do it for you. If you hate the Cure, obviously, I can't make you like the Cure. You're not going to change, because this is at its core a great Cure album. But if the Cure's not your thing, it's just going to be an album that's going to miss you. But if you're even a mild fan of the Cure, this one is going to win you over. Trust me.
Yeah, it will win. This should win over. I mean, casual fans, new fans, this will win you over. Mm-hmm. If he did not pick up new fans from this album, I will be shocked.
Yeah,
I will absolutely be shocked.
Yeah, and I think someone like my daughter's age, who's 18, she listened to this album and enjoyed it, and that's coming from a place of no Cure knowledge, maybe hearing it in the background when I would play it, but not coming in and ended up loving this album as well. So it can really grab you. Even I think he can grab that younger market now, so the one that he hadn't done before. So it's definitely something you need to check out. But what you need to do is check out our Spotify playlist. All of these albums, we're going to have some songs from them. They're all worth listening to. For me, I need to go and discover a few of them myself. So there it is. Our top 5 albums and top 5 songs of 2024. So next week, we go back to our regular format, and that is going in blind, listening to an album that we have never heard before for the first time, talking about it and making our impressions. And our album is the new album that actually came out in 2024. And honestly, I don't know how I missed this one, but next week that gives us a chance to talk about it. And it is No Name by Godspeed You Black Emperor. another band from Canada. So yeah, Chuck, who was on our last show, he said he's going to tune in because this is a Canadian band that's been recording for over 30 years that most people in the general public have no idea who they are. And I've already listened to the album. I'm going to keep my mouth shut on my feelings because you got to tune in next week if you really want to know what I think about this album. But all I can say is I wrote about 10 pages of notes. So
that's your longest.
Many notes were written, and that's from an album with no lyrics. So
yeah, that's your longest.
Yeah, my longest, fully instrumental, and a lot of notes. Like I always say, I got notes. So yes, I have plenty of notes. I have to kind of process all those thoughts now. But yeah, anything else I'm going to leave for next week for you to discover this when Dash and I talk about a brand new album that we haven't heard of. I don't know, Dash, have you heard the band before at all?
I have never heard of this band, and you and Chuck were talking about it. So yeah, I'm ready for this one. 100%.
Yeah, I find that even better. You discover something brand new to you, and hopefully you find enjoyment in it. But yeah, I keep nearly spoiling things, so I'm not, because like I said,
you're not spoiling anything.
You want to know? I keep almost saying thoughts, but no, I will keep my thoughts until next week, and then you can hear them all in full. But all I can say is notes. Many notes were written, the longest so far. And then after Godspeed, we delve into Taylor Swift, our first album by request. So you won't want to miss the next 2 weeks. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for tuning in this year as we've been kind of starting this new show. And go out there, find some new music. And if we don't know it, let us know and we'll discover it with you. So Happy New Year. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you in 2025 with No Name by Godspeed You Black Emperor.